Yo, guys, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Game Series Klay podcast. It's your boy Gautam, my boys Matt and Chuck. Gentlemen, welcome back. It is a Thursday afternoon here today. We got the work fit on, everybody, enjoying the end of the week. But it was a perfect time. Perfect time. Dodgers got eliminated. Great time to hop back on the mic and discuss some dubs, some Niners. But before we get into everything, boys, how we doing? How's the week?
Oh man, I am doing fantastic. Tough week, really loading up on the work. Been pulling a lot of long ass days, but it's all worth it when I get to log off and see the Dodgers get absolutely shelled in the postseason once again. It is death taxes and the LA Dodgers being an utter disappointment all of the time. It's a beautiful thing. I love to see it. How we doing, Matt?
Solid, dude. Yeah, that was fun last night. Fall break, teacher stuff. Went to Catalina last weekend. Dressed like a pirate. Got shit faced for 2 days. It was a good time, man. No complaints.
Great time, dude. Look at that. That's a fantastic week, man. Dodgers get shelled. Same amount of playoff wins as the Giants this year. So shout out the Giants for somehow coming out ahead in a mediocre season. But team that we want to talk about, boys. Golden State Warriors. Our dogs, man. Season's right around the corner. And finally got the first glimpse of what this redemption Warriors team is gonna look like. And man, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like to overreact to preseason, and I don't like, all of us. We take it with a grain of salt, but we can only react to what we've seen. And it looked pretty fucking good, man. That team looks pretty dialed in. Chris Paul obviously in the starting lineup, with Draymond out, Steph Curry back in action, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, and just give me this kind of kicking it off, man. Give me your guys' thoughts from that first preseason win over the Lakers. Saw a lot of good stuff. Saw a lot of things that can seem lineups that can be playable. And a lot of impact minutes is what I really saw in that limited action with starters, but also with the guys on the bench. Before I give you guys my thoughts, Chuck, man, in-house film guy, let's hear it, Chuck. What was your first preseason reaction? How are we feeling?
Yeah, my reaction, I really liked, I mean, it just felt so seamless seeing Chris Paul transition into the movement system. You can tell he's definitely been working on it, but just the way he flows in and out of actions, picking his spots too, like he was getting into the mid range, which we always love to see. That's going to be so money for the Warriors. Just having, you know, like it's one thing. It's like, yeah, he's running the dribble handoffs well. If they get into like some smaller, like empty side pick and roll stuff, it's good. But the thing for me that I love about Chris is it felt like last year the Warriors had two options that were actually like kind of decent. If nothing works and someone just needs to get a shot up, the options were basically just Steph and Klay taking like a total fuck it three. Um, and yeah, they're capable of hitting those, of course. We've seen them hit them. But now we have a third option, and that's just Chris Paul trying to break a guy down, get into the mid range, grift a foul, which we know he can do. And that's really the thing that stood out to me the most was like seeing that they have another bailout option because we know that these guys are going to execute to a high level. But sometimes it just doesn't work out. You don't find the shots you want. Guys hesitate, or the defense plays it well, and that's a huge thing. It's just having another option that you can go to when all breaks down. You're not really looking to Looney or Draymond for that creation. You're probably not really looking to Wiggins unless he's like in the post or getting an open mid range. You need a guy who can create. Chris is that guy. Matt, what do you see out there?
Matt, you might
Uh,
be you might be muted right there, but
he's talking into thin air, folks.
that's how Matt felt, man. He was speechless. He was speechless after seeing a can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll take it away. Say
There
something.
he is.
There he is. He's back.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Let's go, Matt.
So,
Way to build up the
No,
excitement,
no
man.
longer
I
speechless.
love
No
it.
longer
I
speechless.
love
His
it.
words have
Yeah,
found.
yeah.
shit. Well, no, more of the same. And having somebody who's willing to get to those spots within the 3-point line is huge.
And again, it's going to be really fun this year to see Wiggins and Moody and Kuminga develop as cutters because with Chris Paul at the end of a shot clock, there's no better time to cut than when you think one guy's going to shoot the ball in a second, right? So Chris Paul is a master at just last 2-3 seconds finding cutters. So I'm really excited for that too. And we saw a little bit of that over the game, but no, I mean it felt like a continuation of media day to me, right? I think all the things that were being said at media day were pretty it was good vibes, right? Chris Paul was saying all the right stuff. We heard great things about Kuminga. We heard, Klay's looking great. We have some thoughts on Klay we can share in a moment. I'm sure the guy picked up right where he left off as far as firing away goes. But no, they look nice. And I'm just excited. Again, I can't say enough. I'm all in on Chris Paul and the Warriors. I think he's going to bring a lot of what they need. And I have never been less worried about a player fitting in offensively. I don't think, maybe outside of KD, just because the guy's a genius. Like, he's going to figure stuff out. I'm not at all concerned he's not going to figure out all the Warriors' actions, split cut, handoff, whatever it is, right? He'll be fine. But I'm just really looking forward to the pace he brings, the ball control he brings, and just the fact that he takes care of the basketball and wants to get to the mid range. I think it's going to be huge for this team.
Yeah, 100%. And it's kind. I mean, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you guys. I think the biggest takeaway for me was obviously, the whole discussion in the offseason was, would Chris Paul start? Would he come off the bench, or who's coming off the bench? And I think a big part of why we felt like Chris Paul would be that perfect anchor for that second unit was, like you're saying, like he's a prototypical point guard, one of the best to ever do it. Can really break out defense down, plays different than Warriors with all the pick and roll, slows the game down. But I think, at least for me personally, I underestimated his fit with the starters. And I think on the defensive end, we obviously, there's going to be stuff to figure out. It's a smaller lineup, especially with Draymond not out there, and Looney being the only big. But I think I underestimated how well Chris Paul would fit in offensively next to guys like Steph and Klay. And the dude is a surgical point guard, man. Like, he is gonna get everybody in the right spots. And just to think that you got Chris Paul running point with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson running off screens in the Warriors motion offense that they've perfected over the course of this dynasty, it really made me look like, whoa, like I don't think that we realize how potent this offensive unit's going to be. And I think Chris is going to be a great fit for that second unit. Guys like JK, who looked incredible, Moses. I thought Pods had a really good game too. I think you can really tell the kid, minutes wise rotation, we won't see. I mean, I don't know how he's going to fit in right now, but as the season kind of progresses and, guys are taking games off, I think Pods is going to come in there and be able to hold his own. And I think Steve Kerr is speaking very highly of him, Trace Jackson Davis. So like you said, man, the vibes just were really, really good on that first game. I know we play him again Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just going to be fun to see, the lineups, the rotations, how that kind of all starts to work itself out, especially with Draymond out of there right now. And I think I said it in the last episode, but I think Draymond being out, honestly, just makes this even. It's a blessing in disguise. Like, obviously, you want him to get better. You don't want a guy to be healthy or not be healthy going into a season. But just Draymond being out there, what Draymond's going to get in terms of his ability to play off of Chris Paul with Steph and Klay and all the other guys. So to see how it looks without Draymond and CP and Draymond kind of having that similar, point guard, point forward role. So to see how now you toss two guys out there with how Chris and Draymond can play together, I think the offense is going to be insane. And defensively, I think they look pretty good, man. Like, they have guys on the roster with Wiggins, GP, Kuminga. So it really seems it's a stark difference from the team that we had last year from a roster standpoint. You can really see the upside with these guys. And obviously still just the first preseason game, but a lot to be excited about for Dub Nation. So I'm excited to see how the rest of preseason works out, and can't wait to watch these guys play, man. This is gonna be a fun year. The vibes are back, man. The vibes are back, baby.
I'm already slobbering over, Draymond in the short roll, Chris Paul, Stephen Klay on the wings, and then one of Kuminga, GP2, or Wiggins on that baseline for a little cut and dunk, like our classic Andre move. I can't wait for it.
And I love Andre Iguodala. Obviously, I think he's retired officially. I'm not sure, but Chris Paul being kind of the vet now on the team as well. A guy who can take that Iggy role from a leadership, mentorship standpoint for some of these young guys, but is also going to give you, 25 to 30 minutes a night consistently. So it's just great to have a guy like that on the team. And Who would have thought that we'd be here, man? Chris Paul and the Warriors, and obviously when he got traded, we all had reactions just with the history that we've had with this man. But I now that seeing him in the jersey for the first time, it was like, all right, like this is one of our dudes, and he's gonna help us win some ball games and hopefully get him a first championship and the Warriors number 5. So that's what the goal is. You can tell just from everybody talking like that they're locked in for one singular purpose. So it's gonna be fun, man. I'm excited, very very excited.
So
we're seeing it. Oh, sorry, Matt. One more thing I want to add too. We're seeing it come out again. Like Chris Paul is once again taking the early flights in the morning. He's flying up for workouts. Like it's just it's such an awesome thing to see that, like, we've felt the energy around this team before where they're like in this do or die mentality. And it feels like Chris picked up on that like the second he walked into the building. He's like, this is my chance, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make it work. And he's doing it, man. He's doing it.
he's like, like look back in high school, right? There was that guy you always saw, you didn't know him at all, but he looked like a total dickhead, and you never talked to him, but in your head, he's just dick. He's just an asshole for no reason, right? You didn't like the guy. I get you. So you didn't like him, and then maybe in college, you're home for summer, you meet him, he's a chiller. You guys start hanging out for a bit, and you're kind of like, wow, I was wrong about this guy. You keep hanging out. Turns out he is a dick, but now he's in your friend group. That's like Chris Paul, I feel like. That's what's going to happen with this guy. He's turned, he's getting all the good graces, and then we're going to find out he's actually a dickhead, but he's our dickhead. So,
Hey, as long as he's our dickhead, man, we'll take him.
hey, it's great.
We'll take
It's
him.
great. So, we haven't hit it yet, but Kuminga popped off in that first game, right? Kuminga dropped 24. He hit 4 threes. Coming out of that game, is that more or less what you wanted to see from him? Is the 3-point shooting too much? What did we think about our guy JK after game 3? Game 1. Oops.
Yeah, oh man, I'm just there was an exact person that flashed into my mind when you said that. And that was just, oh man, that was beautiful stuff right there. So the thing here too, what was he, 4 for 8 on threes? I mean, he took a lot.
4 for 8.
4 for 8. So the thing too, and like, it's one thing if he's open in the corner and he's got an easy corner 3 and he's going to take it because they want those shots. Like those aren't bad shots by any means, especially considering that he's been like at or above league average through his first 2 years. The thing I really like to see in preseason, and I'm curious to see if this translates to the regular season, is like, given what he is as a driving threat, we know that if he runs a pick and roll or he is in a dribble handoff, the defender who's defending him is going to do their damnedest to go under the screen. Like they can't allow him to get a guy on his back hip, get that space going downhill, because then it's a layup, it's a dunk, it's a foul. Like he's just way too much to handle if you give him that momentum. And so he was taking exactly what the defense gave him. Like they went under, he popped the 3, he made a bunch of them. And obviously preseason when the games count, it's a lot easier to just be like, whatever, let me just throw this thing up there. And I'm sure that, the coaching staff is encouraging him to test the waters a little bit. But that's going to be a thing to keep an eye on in the regular season is, does he have these kind of games where he ends up taking like 8 or 9 threes because the defense just wants to ignore him and he feels confident about his shot? You don't want to get to a point where he's reliant on it and he's just like, oh, I'm open, because I think it's an important skill development for him to learn, hey, they're going under on me. I'm still better than you athletically. There's maybe, we could probably count the guys who are defending him like that are equal athletes on both hands in the league. So unless you're going up against like a Kawhi Leonard or an OG Anunoby or like one of the league's true premier wing defenders, like just take it. Like just eat up that space. It won't take him very long. Be comfortable with the contact, work on the handle, and he can still get to the rim. But if he's gonna be shooting when they go under and it's going in, then defense are gonna be in a box. Like if damned if you do, damned if you don't, if the shot is real.
Yeah, 100%. I think Chuck, I think I forget who texted it during the game, but one of you guys were like, yeah, the shooting looks legit. Like it was confidence. And that was, I think, the biggest thing that I took away from JK, man. Like it looks like he's poised for a leap. And just with JK, with Moses, like those two guys are really big X factors on this team where We know what you're getting with the starters. We know what we're getting in terms of the vets off the bench and with GP and Dario Saric, all those guys. But with Kuminga and Moody, effectively taking that leap, that second unit, man, is going to be incredible. If those guys are going to be able to make that leap, and I think JK kind of flashed it considerably. You can tell the confidence is there. He's starting to put it all together, and I think that with more performances like this in the preseason, he's just going to be extending that leash. That who knows how far along in that process he is, but we need these guys to be great in their role this season to really to have a chance to win this championship. And playing with guys like Chris Paul, I think Saric too off the bench was really awesome. Just the way that he fits in, the IQ that he's playing with. You can see he can play with starters, he can play with the bench. So for JK and Moses to really be there and show the development, I think is going to be super fun to watch it unfold. But that first preseason game, man, you could see it, like it's all coming together now, and it's exciting. That's really the only thing we're used to describe it, man. It's exciting to see these guys who we've been waiting. Like obviously you take your developmental hits and stuff when you're going through them, and there's pains all the time, but year 3 is normally that time where it's make or break year. I think I forget what the contract situation is it 3 or 4, but it's his time now. So I'm excited, man. It's very, very exciting to watch it, and we'll see more on Friday.
Yeah, I felt mostly the same. Eight attempts is a lot. Like you said, Chuck, they're mostly open, and he in a preseason game like this is going to get more looks than he will in regular season games if he's hitting them, keep firing. I can also guarantee that if he takes 4 threes in a game this season, we'll likely see his leash get chopped there by our good guy Steve Kerr. But it was also cool to see, I forget who it was, but Kuminga had a mismatch at one point in the post, and Kerr kind of called for him to attack it. Actually, kind of asked for a clear out and let Kuminga get after it. And Kuminga converted. If that's something the Warriors are willing to go to, and that's also Kuminga's dream. Like, this guy wants to be down in the post. He wants to be that like, hey, I want this one-on-one look. I think that's really good. I think the fact like Kerr is willing to adjust to a guy like Kuminga, who, again, athletically speaking, kind of like you were saying, Chuck, he's 99 percentile in the league, right? There's a handful of guys who are on his level. I think he's got great touch. He had a really nice left-hand finish over Anthony Davis to start the game. I want to see the Warriors and Steve Kerr dive a little more into what he's good at, because what he's good at, this team doesn't really have outside of him. So, except for GP2 in some ways, which is really funny considering their size difference. But no, I'm excited about it, and I think, again, I really just hope we see him and Chris Paul kind of as a 6th man combination, basically, kind of like a Lou Will Montrez type deal. Obviously, way different basketball players, but I just mean as far as the unit goes, I want to see those 2 guys on the floor together at all times, because I think what Kuminga can turn into this year and what it's looking like he wants to turn into are exactly what the team needs. And just also, the guy's been stellar in interviews recently. I mean, interviews are interviews, right? It's hard to fuck those up, but he's saying all the right stuff, and it sounds like he wants to do what this team wants him to do. You're hearing all this stuff about the team literally pausing practice if he's not trying to grab rebounds. They're calling him out, and he knows that if he wants to be on the floor this year, he has to rebound. And you're that big and that athletic, it is a choice thing, right? He's 6'9", 9 times out of 10 the best athlete on the floor. He's got to grab boards, and it sounds like he's prioritizing what it's going to take for him to get on the floor, and it showed in that first game, I thought. So, hey, looking forward to our guy JK.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I saw too that it was a little interesting kind of hearing it from Kalena over the broadcast, where he says he wants Jonathan Kuminga grabbing like 6 or 7 boards a game. And I was like, that maybe feels a little like playing time dependent. Like, I think he's got to be like playing starter minutes to get up to that much. But there are still things like you can look at what he does like as a forward relative to other guys. And I think that's highly dependent on his context, because, if you're ostensibly playing him at the 4 all of the time, like one thing that's really interesting is when you look at his stats among forwards, He was 85th percentile in offensive rebound percentage last year off of field goals. He was 64th in defensive rebounding percentage. So, he's solidly above average. And I think that's an important point too, is they're saying like, hey, you're good at this on a permanent basis, but we know you can be great. And how do we push you to be great? And how do you work with us to be great? Because, and we talked about it too. I rolled over the Kevon Looney rebounding piece. Like, I don't think there's any better guy that you could learn from. Bow to the loon god, of course. But he is not nearly the athlete Jonathan Kuminga was, but he kind of used to be, and I think if there's a guy that you could point to and say, hey, are you bigger than everybody else? Not necessarily, but you're strong as hell. You're agile. Here's how you need to be using your hips. Here's how you need to be moving your body. Here's how you put yourself in position. So, I'm all for the Kuminga rebounding league too. I think that's going to be a major point for them.
Yeah, big time. I mean, that was really the biggest reason why he kind of got the leash plug or the leash pulled last year in the playoffs. And I think Steve Kerr made it known, like, JK knows what he has to do to get on the floor, how to help this team, and rebounding is a key part of that. And like, I'm with you guys, man. Just all part of the leap, and I think that we're going to see that kind of unfold and develop over the course of the season. But kind of shifting gears a little bit to a little off the court. But Klay Thompson and Steve Kerr going into the final year of their contracts, or I think Klay has
both. Yeah,
both final year. So final year of their contracts, and there's reports going out there with Klay right now. Steve Kerr has gone on a few radio shows and has mentioned that going into a lame duck kind of a year is not an issue for him. He's foresees him being back, and I think I do too. But Klay, there was a couple of reports that came out that he's not looking for a max. He's looking for a contract that's going to be helpful for the Warriors to keep everybody. And I think the number that I saw floating around was 35 million, maybe a little less, something similar to Andrew Wiggins, maybe. But just kind of your thoughts on Klay's extension. The fact that he's kind of come out and said that he doesn't need a max, doesn't want a max, or not looking for it, looking for a team friendly contract to kind of make that go. Just kind of give me your guys' thoughts, man. I think something gets done before the start of the season, to be honest. I think that obviously both sides want each other back. Klay's mentioned numerous times how he wants to retire as a Warrior and ride out with Steph and Draymond. And the fact that we've seen Draymond get an extension, and obviously Steph is going to be here. So it seems like the front office is not gonna make too much of a big deal about this one. But your guys' thoughts, man. You guys think that the contract gets done going into the season? Is it something that kind of lingers if it doesn't? Just kind of in this whole contract situation.
Yeah, so I'm not really concerned about the contract stuff. Shout out real quick to the Athletic guys, Marcus Thompson, TK, and Slater, the most plugged in trio as far as Warriors basketball goes. They've talked about in writing on their podcast about how Klay has been pretty amicable so far, it sounds like, as far as contract negotiations go. Slater reported that he does not expect, I'm sure he would love to make max money, but he's not expecting and doesn't plan on demanding a max contract, which is great. Double shouts to Dre and Wiggins for taking the contracts they did, because that just sets a precedent, right? You got two guys who, one of whom is the best defensive player in basketball. The other is, the prototypical wing in the NBA right now, taking $27 million each. At this point in his career, I don't know who's the best player out of those three guys, Klay, Wiggins, and Draymond. It's different just because they're all very different players. They serve different roles, but they're all in similar tiers, in my opinion, as far as contract stuff goes. So I think 35 is going to be high. I don't see him making $35 million again. 30 might even be a little high as a starting salary for this upcoming season. I saw Mannix report that. I don't know if Chris Mannix knows about much, but I think the guy will take a good contract. I think 4 or 5 years, $125, $130 million, probably where it ends up. 140 maybe. He's like salary cap's going to bump up at some point, but it sounds like he just wants to be a Warrior the rest of his career. Hope you guys caught that. I think it was a Slater piece or a TK piece. I forget who, or maybe it was Thompson even, but just one-on-one with Klay and just talking about how hard it would be for him to even imagine himself in a different jersey, and how much he loves playing for the Warriors and loves being in the Bay. So the guy's got to stick around. He's going to stick around. Like you said, Gautam, it sounds like before the season's pretty reasonable. Those guys at the Athletic have said the same thing, I think. And I would put, if I had to bet, I'm not going to bet any money on it, but if I had to bet, I'd say a contract gets done before the season's done. Love Klay, respect Klay. He can say a lot of good things. He's not the guy I want on a contract here going into the season. Personally, just given some of the shot selection stuff from last year and who he kind of thinks he wants to be sometimes, I think a Klay that is paid up and knows what he's getting is a lot easier to work with, most likely. Not that the guy has ever been anything but easy. You just want your guys in the best position possible for the rest of the team. With Kerr, it's not like Lacob, Steve, all these guys have said both these guys have said they want to be back. I think even on the broadcast during the Laker game on Saturday, I think Lacob even said like, no, we're bringing Steve back. Kerr, I think Kerr's back as well. I'd be surprised if the whole OG crew is not back and taken care of before the beginning of the season.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think, Gautam, the point you made too that I think is interesting is this going to be hanging over their head? And I think a lot of that, it doesn't feel like a thing that's dependent on how this season goes. I think that this is a team that has enough confidence in themselves. And, we saw it with Draymond. People tried to hit the panic buttons after Draymond didn't sign his extension. He plays through the season. He declines his options. He resigns. I think this is a team that is willing to kind of embrace some discomfort there and just focus on the things at hand. Because it is sort of an underrated thing that like when you're actively negotiating extensions, you're just kind of going to behave differently. You might be maybe a little less aggressive in what you're doing. You're not trying to get hurt while the extension talks are happening. And especially with a guy like Klay, who's had all the recent injuries. But, I think Kerr and Klay both are guys that are going to play the season out. They're going to see what happens. And then they're going to be back eventually because this team is unbelievable at keeping their talent in-house. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if we kind of just quietly hear these talks die, or if they just very quickly announce an extension and get it over with. It feels like if it's not coming in a couple of days, they're like, you know what, we're going to handle that later. Let's just go out and get number 5.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's one of those things where it's an if or it's a when, not an if. It's going to happen for both of them. As long as Steph, Klay, and Draymond are playing basketball, I see Steve Kerr being their coach. I see Klay being a part of that crew. And yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That was a great point you brought up, Chuck, about the Draymond situation last year too. Just with everything that went on with the punch and the offseason stuff and the locker room issues and whatever. And, at the end of the day, we signed back at a very favorable deal for the Warriors and for Draymond as well. So to keep everybody together, I don't see Klay having nearly as much of an issue going into. I don't even know if Klay knows that he's up for an extension. But that's just maybe his representatives. So I think it'd be fine, man. It'd be good. And like you said, bro, I don't see anything changing. These guys are riding out into the sunset together. If they haven't, put on a new jersey in whatever 13, 14 years, it's not gonna happen now. So I'm just excited for it to get done. It feels like, once these two, once Klay and Kerr kind of get locked in, it's officially the final run for these guys. And we've grown up watching them in terms of just from when Steph started in 2009, but the first playoff series against Denver to the championships, to the ups and downs, to getting back. So they've been through so much together. And they're right in a prime position to keep writing the story, man. The dynasty's not yet done, and these guys got a lot more history to create in a Warriors jersey. So I don't see that changing. And we running it back, man. Number 5. It seems like that's the focus for everybody. And I think Draymond had an interview yesterday or something. I think I saw it popped up. But he said they've got everything it's going to take to win a championship. And excited to see how that unfolds. Speaking of championships, there's another team from the Bay Area that's championship hunting, and it's the San Francisco 49ers, ladies and gentlemen. 5-0 San Francisco 49ers, coming off a absolute beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys. I want to retweet George Kittle's shirt on the show. Fuck Dallas. Fuck the Cowboys. It's always been like that. It's always going to be like that. But goddamn, I've never thought I would go into that game, man. I did not expect. We expected a win, Chuck. You know, when we were talking about it on the last episode. I think yours was 27-20 or 31-17 was your score.
Yeah, I had like 31-17 or 30-16. So I thought it would be like
I think I had 27-17. I thought, Dallas's defense was legit. And they'd have a little. God damn, were we wrong, man? This Niners team was just. I was my roommate, right? Ronan, who was on the show the other day, or the Blazers time. He's a massive Cowboys fan, and the lead up to the game was a lot of trash talking, a lot of no, we're coming, blah blah. And by the end of it, man, I was just telling them there's levels to this, and y'all ain't there. Like, y'all just not on the level of us. And the Niners look like they're on the level beyond anybody else in the NFL, barring the Philadelphia Eagles, who are also 5-0, and really the main competition, at least for the Niners at this point, who obviously sent them home last year. But Chuckster, man, talk me through the game. Your thoughts from the beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys and the superstar that we're watching unfold before our eyes, man. Brock Purdy, absolutely incredible. Mr. Irrelevant is long gone. It's honestly a pretty sick moniker for a guy who is arguably the front runner for the MVP right now. So Chuck, take it away, man.
Yeah, so the only thing I got to disagree with there, I don't think he's necessarily front runner for the MVP. He's definitely in the conversation.
Arguably.
The fact that he's in it is crazy.
It's wild.
Like, considering that doesn't even have a full game of like starting quarterback under his belt. We're going into game 12 next week, I think, which is just wild. And yeah, the only reason I say he's not up there is because Christian McCaffrey is the best player in football right now on the offensive side of the ball. Like, it's truly just stupid what he's doing out there. And we talked about this last week. Yeah, he's just steamrolling. So the thing with Brock too that I think is cool is, you see all these conversations about like, oh, it's the system and it's all of these other things. And like, yeah, there is a lot to say about knowing your receivers are going to be there, trusting them, knowing where the breaks are going, so where you put the ball. But goddamn, if he doesn't put it in the exact spot it needs to go every time. And that's not even just like the short route stuff where he's throwing like shallow crosses and little digs. Like, dude, intermediate stuff, like outside the numbers, like guys are posting to the sideline. He's dropping it in the bucket, like right where they need to be. He's stepping up in the pocket, just throwing right through the pass rush. Like, you're seeing the active development here because, it feels like last season he was great, but he was kind of just like, I'm going to take what you give me. And, I'm going to put it where it needs to be, but I'm not really looking to push the ball. And, now he's just making a couple quick reads. He processes so quickly and bang. Like, I get it. There's so many other quarterbacks that have to go through several reads. They don't have receivers that like are always where they need to be or always got the hands or, there's so many other factors that go into that. But, it just feels like people are starting to like blanket discredit Brock for the success of this offense. It's just asinine to think like, oh yeah, if you slap any quarterback in there, like McCorkle Jones over in New England or Zach Wilson or any of these other guys who've struggled, and they're like, oh, you slap them in San Francisco and they'd be doing just as well. No, they wouldn't. They do not have the pass-to-pass accuracy that Brock has. And it's just unbelievable to watch every week, man. Like, that Cardinals game just absolutely cutting them up. And then you see against the Cowboys defense, it was a very good secondary. Like we talked about it this week, even without Diggs, like Deron Bland is very solid. They always get good safety play. They have great coverage linebackers too.
And rush.
And it just didn't matter. And yeah, the rush, you have to factor that in. Like they're pressuring him all the time and he's just stepping up in the pocket and throwing darts.
Yeah.
So that stuff is amazing. My last note I got to drop, shout out to Micah Parsons for having one of the funniest cry more loser weeks I've ever seen out of an NFL player. Going on his own podcast, not only talking trash on Kittle and the shirt, which is just hilarious to pretend like, yeah, dude, you Micah Parsons, who did some of the worst hazing I've ever seen at Penn State, basically just assaulting his teammates. You know what's classy, like, for sure, dude. And then on top of that, he's throwing out this stuff like, at the end of the day, I feel like we're equal teams. No,
Fuck, you're not.
no,
There's levels.
they just quadrupled your score, buddy. They just kicked you out of the stadium. Like,
I think
it's
Debo said it best, man. Debo said it best after on the K Adams show when he was like, I don't know, you didn't take it personal that like the first time we sent y'all home twice, and you're not like us, bro. It's gonna be the same. We subbed out our starters at the end of the third quarter and beat them by 32. You think if
we put in Jordan Mason, and Jordan Mason just started steamrolling them.
Yeah. And like my thing is, bro, like going in leading up to the Cowboys, I think we made the point on here last week where we were saying, you're not hearing a lot of talk from the Niners in terms of like, oh, Cowboys week, big game, blah, blah, blah. You're treating it as their own game. And the Cowboys were saying, that was their Super Bowl. And they came out and got clapped. And then to give the Niners more ammunition to a team that they already know they son, to if they see each other in the playoffs again, you got an angry Debo, an angry Kittle, an angry Kyle Shanahan. Like you dig in your own grave, Micah. But no, man, I totally agree with you on everything you said, bro. Like Brock Purdy has been so impressive to me, and he's the reason Kyle Shanahan can now unleash his playbook and really get into his bag. You're like you were mentioning, just making the reads and taking shots. There's a few routes on there. I think there was one to Juwan Jennings when he hit him on an out, and you had Debo and I think IU coming in on two ins that Kyle normally runs, and you had that deep out. The linebackers took the ends, and that out to Juwan Jennings was like a 25-yard throw. He threw it on a fucking rope, and it was not the first time in the game that he did that, but the middle the what's it called, the ends were open, and those are the hospital balls you'd see with Jimmy, and then with guys that he couldn't really make that throw that far to see that quick, and so you have those hospital balls, and we've seen Debo, Kittle, all those guys with the Jimmy stuff. But for Brock to understand that there's going to be shots to be taken, and I'm going to take it. He's ripping it. I think the most impressive sequence was the throw to Ayuk that was absolutely on the rope. He hit Ayuk up the sideline and got called back on the hold by Burford. And the very next play on like 3rd and 15 or something like that, hits Debo again, just absolutely tight spiral in the middle. And he's putting it in positions, like you said, man, absolutely accurate, where Debo's able to get off and run, and Ayuk's able to get off and run and really get those yak yards. And that's what makes Brock so special right now. Is he's accurate, he's fast, and the kid's tough, man. Like the flea flicker to Kittle, he threw that ball on a rope with a lineman just in his face, ready to hit him, and just didn't hesitate, put the ball on the money, touchdown. And you can see, I think, video of Debo. I think Debo was mic'd up, and man, he was telling Brock, bro, you're a killer, dude. You're having the game of your life on prime time, and for that to be Brock's coming out party to really shut up all the haters, on a defense that everybody thought would be the one that kind of, and that gave him trouble last year. To be fair to Dallas, that was probably if I had to say, the most uncomfortable Brock's looked prior to last season. So for Brock to come in and have that kind of a game on prime time, to set the Niners up at 5-0, it really showcased how good this team's going to be, man. And I don't like to say Super Bowl or bust. I think football, especially in the playoffs, is really about who's healthy, and a lot of stuff goes into it. But man, this team looks poised to win a Super Bowl, man. They're looking good. They're healthy. This is a special squad we've got. And kind of like the Warriors, man, where everybody's on a mission to go get number 5, and it's a collective thing. The Niners seem like they're on a mission to go to Vegas this year. And I was thinking about it the other day where, obviously they traded for McCaffrey last year, and then obviously Brock started, and they hadn't lost a game going into Philly. Everybody else on the team has gone through, the postseason struggles with the Jimmy Garoppolo era and the 19 Super Bowl team and all that. And it was just Christian and Brock that haven't gotten that, a taste of that heartbreak or whatever. So for them to go through it last year so for everybody to be collectively in it now, Brock's healthy, Christian's looking like the MVP. It's a special team, man. I'm excited. They got Cleveland this week, which will be another fun test. I think number 2 ranked defense, at least last week, behind Dallas. So definitely a more legit threat or test for Brock and the offense. But these guys look like they're firing all cylinders. I think Deshaun Watson's going to be out for this game. He hasn't practiced all week. So seems like the Niners defense, who, again, a masterful performance. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, pass rush, adding Randy Gregory, like everything. They're playing some good football. And this team looks very, very good, man. It's a collision course for week 13. With the Eagles being 5-0 and the Niners being 5-0, starting to show the case themselves as the cream of the crop in the NFL. Excuse me. But before we get out of here, Chuck, what is your score prediction, man? Let's get a prediction for this Sunday. We got Cleveland on the morning slate in Cleveland. So fun fact: Fred Warner has never played one of 2 stadiums he's never played in. I heard that on Twitter somewhere. So
really, he hasn't played. I guess that makes sense. Like they rotate him.
I think you said it was Cleveland and Buffalo. I think are the 2 he said that he has still not yet played a game. So gets to check that off the box for his career, which is also just we'll have a Fred Warner day as well soon. But before we get out of here, Chuck, sir, what are we feeling?
I don't know, man. Like you said, I think Deshaun's out, and I respect Dorian Thompson-Robinson, their backup. Like he's kind of got that. I'm just gonna go out there and sling it and try to make things happen. But this is not a defense that you really get to make things happen against. So yeah, this just feels like a beatdown. Like I think at this point, like the Niners, you just can't slow down this offense, no matter how good your defense is. I don't even want to predict that they get held under 30 because they just don't get held under 30 anymore. So, man, I'm going 31-10. I think they just
that was my prediction.
yes, dude.
Great
minds. The brain is firing, dude. I mean,
I hear you.
Deshaun is, not what he used to be. And he's also human garbage. But, besides that, like, he's just he creates a lot of bad plays. He takes a lot of sacks. Like, he doesn't kind of have like the explosion that he used to and the deep passing and all of that. And I think, too, when you look at like how the Niners are going to deploy things, like Amari Cooper, great number 1 receiver. But they're going to need Elijah Moore to beat the secondary guys because Charvarius Ward's looking shut down right now.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you can count on a backup quarterback to get enough passes, especially to his secondary receivers, even if they're 1-on-1, to keep them in this game. And it just feels inevitable that the Niners score 30. And it's tempting to say that Cleveland doesn't even get to double digits. Like, because
my initial score reaction was like 35-6 or something, and I was like, you know what, let's give them a little love. Don't want to be too cocky going into it, but I'm with you, man. I think that the defense or the Browns defense will give them a better test. I think they're legitimate defense. More so than the Cowboys, man. The Cowboys look like frauds coming into last night, but it was also the Niners offense, man. Like you said, it's a well-oiled machine at this point, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. I think the 30 points continue. Like you said, man, 31-10 seems apt. 31 just at this point after a 42-point performance seems like, a slow day at the office. So I think it will take a little bit of time. I will predict that Brock does throw his first pick of the season this Sunday. I hope not. I hope he has no picks all year, but it just feels like it's going to be we haven't seen a letdown game from him yet, and on the road in Cleveland, early start. Like, if this is the game that the pick streak ends, it is what it is. But I think the Niners win this comfortably. Backup quarterback isn't gonna do much, but Yeah, man, 6-0. Let's go 6-0 this week. But before we get out of here, Chuckster, as always, man, anything to shout out?
Man, just hashtag ramping up for the season.
Ramp up,
You
baby.
know, as always, you can check me out on Twitter at Claytheist11, where I'll be tweeting about Niners, Warriors, of course. Whatever the hell else pops into my head at this point, because that's the way it should be. And yeah, always check out theswishtheory.com. That's where I get all my writing done. Hopefully, get back on the horse once the season starts and get some more stuff out there. It's been a fun off season, and you can read my pieces on Moses Moody's defense, Kevon Looney's rebounding, and the Jonathan Kuminga shooting breakout. Not to toot my own horn, but we're looking pretty good after that first game.
100%. Toot your own horn, Chuck. Toot your own horn. You're killing it right now. Yeah, guys, check out Chuck. Follow me, Matt, Chuck. Follow the pod. Check it out. We're loving the engagement and the uptake in the listeners. So let us know. Drop comments, drop your thoughts, anything you guys might want to hear. We're excited to bring you guys content this year, man. It's gonna be fun. Niners content, Warriors content. Both teams just aiming to get that trophy back in the Bay, and that's what we're here to see. But until the next episode, guys, peace.